going on, everybody? Welcome in to another edition of Huskers Live, and it is blackout week for the Huskers. So
we did not coordinate this either.
We actually did, and I just realized that as I said it, that we're both wearing black. So
yeah,
I was almost going to make the thumbnail for the show black, but then I was like, I don't really think that contrasts well for people to see it on their YouTube feed. So we need
our background's black.
Yeah, it works. We need to kind of pop a little bit. So we are here to break down everything USC, and boy, is this a big week for Nebraska to get everything situated and on the right track. Finally, an opportunity to kind of prove some people wrong, if you will. And me and Brian haven't talked about our predictions yet, but we'll see if our predictions are in line with maybe they have to prove us wrong, or we'll see what we got. We kind of talked about it a little bit last week, but I'll see if Brian's mind's changed a little bit on that, or if we'll see if my mind's changed a little bit. But we're going to dive into everything, offense, defense, special teams for both teams, give you a little bit of an idea of what we think the offensive game plan should be, and stuff we can build off of from last week. So, Brian, first off, how you doing today, man?
I'm good. I'm 3 energy drinks deep, so I'm functioning and awake now. How are you doing?
I'm a caffeine pill and a half deep. It was so early morning, had clients from 7 a.m. and then my phone broke at work as I was, Brian saw me pop on 2 minutes before the show. I was getting everything onto a new phone, but I have no numbers. So if y'all text me and I ask who it is, that's why. Brian, I have yours saved, but most numbers I don't save, and that's a character flaw of mine. So
I have to save by where, like at this point, because I've moved 3 times to 3 different states. I save them by which state they're from in case it's a duplicate name.
Yeah, that's
weird because I have a lot of friends named Justin, actually. So there's a lot of Justin Kansas, Justin Arizona.
There's too many of us, honestly.
I should just put last names. It's a lot easier.
My name backwards is Nitsuj Lopsmata, just in case you're wondering. So just a fun fact there. All right, let's go ahead and dive into the USC preview. We broke down the Northwestern game, recapped that a little bit. So I'm sure a lot of y'all saw that. But Brian, I just want to first off ask, how are you feeling in comparison to how you were feeling coming off of the Northwestern game? Do you feel similar in terms of, in digging on USC? Do you feel better or worse? How do you feel?
It's a weird game. I think initial thoughts were, I thought USC would run away with it a little bit. I mean, maybe close, and then they run away with it towards the end. But as I just look at their defense, and it's not great. I mean, it's one of the best against the run in the red zone, but it's just not a great defense overall. I think that gives me a little bit more positive outlook, I guess, that if Nebraska does what they did last week, we're going to be in good shape. So I have adjusted my prediction. We'll save that for later, but I feel slightly more confident, but not great.
Yeah. I'm kind of with you. It's weird because the more I dig into USC, the more I watch USC's previous games, it's very dependent on which game it is, on how I feel about them, because I feel like this has the opportunity to go multiple different ways, but I feel like this has the opportunity to get very ugly based on which team we see from each side. And one of the things that I think gives me just a little bit of confidence, and you can tell me if you agree here, but I kind of feel like Nebraska should be playing with almost house money in this game, because nobody's really expecting us to win this game. And I think that USC, when USC has a lot of pressure on them, very much like Nebraska, Lincoln Riley is one of those coaches that has been known to falter, in big moments and big games. And honestly, this feels almost like a must-win for, a must-win season for USC to get to the playoff, because Lincoln Riley has not yet, And I feel like for Nebraska, again, it's just the last few weeks, with when you're playing your Michigan States, your Northwesterns, and those schools, I've just felt like a little tightness in those games, like almost like, when Nebraska's playing as a touchdown favorite, it's like we have to win those games. And I feel like there's been a lot of pressure on this team that, like, even with those games being close, like there's been pressure on this team to like cover the spread in those games to be able to get the respect that they deserve. But I think this game's just completely different. I feel like the pressure is flipped onto USC. I think Nebraska's ability to go out there and play loose, free, and fun, I hope, especially like on the defensive side of the ball, I'm just thinking like, maybe we could just kind of let loose, come out with that aggressive style that we were playing last week, and come out there and feed off the crowd and just play like there's nothing to lose, because I don't think there necessarily is, because I don't think it's a negative hit on Nebraska if they lose this game in terms of the public attention, because I think just a lot of people are expecting that. So do you agree with me kind of in that regard?
I do. I just looked it up while you're talking. The FPI has USC at a 72% chance of winning on Saturday. That's usually a good indicator of, excuse me, it's usually a good indicator of kind of where everyone's thinking with this game. And I think, could Nebraska use stuff like that as a, motivation? Sure, why not? But at the end of the day, like you mentioned, if Nebraska loses, it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the season. Most people aren't expecting this. But if you win, that's when the expectations continue to elevate. And if you win on the national stage with 20 or 34 and 5-star recruits visiting, that's when you can really flip your script. Now, this is a weird game to me because traditionally speaking, Coach Rule is not great in these games.
Yep.
In my notes here, Coach Rule is 0-7 at Nebraska versus ranked teams. His last ranked win was in 2016 versus Navy when he was at Temple. Now,
speaking of,
yeah,
ranked Navy, you cowards.
Yeah, they're undefeated.
They're undefeated, 7-0, and they're not ranked. Sorry, I digress.
No, you're good. But also, Lincoln Riley at USC is 1-8 when they travel across 2 different time zones, and they are 1-14 in their last 15 games where they travel across 2 time zones as a program, even before Lincoln Riley. So it's a game of something's got to give, right? Even in black uniforms, like we have the surrender whites. What are we going to call the black uniforms? Nebraska's 0-4 with losses to UCLA, Northwestern, Indiana, and Illinois.
Got to be careful what you call them, because
yeah.
The surrender whites, I don't know. People get real weird about how you phrase stuff, but what is our record in the black uniforms?
0-4. In fact, the 2013 game against UCLA, Nebraska was up, if I'm not mistaken, it was 21 or 28 points at half. And they blew it. Yep. I think it was 31-7 at half, or 28-7 at half.
Yeah.
Maybe not. But I know they had a huge lead that they blew. So it's like, to me, this is a game of like every negative trend is going to have to be broken by one of these teams. Like USC is going to have to figure out a way to win under Lincoln Riley when you're traveling across 2 time zones. Nebraska's going to have to figure out how to beat a ranked team under Coach Rule specifically. Nebraska also is 51-51 all time versus ranked teams. When they play in Memorial Stadium, they haven't had a losing record since 1987. So like, there's just a lot of like, they're 0-14 in their last 14 ranked games at home. There's just so many weird, like negative connotations and trends that are something's going to give Saturday. Hopefully it's our favor.
And I think that what makes this an intriguing game outside of the fact that both teams potentially have their playoff hopes, on the line. But Nebraska has the opportunity here to really, really flip the script on this season, with the win here, potentially get themselves into the playoff conversation if they win this without a doubt in the playoff conversation.
7-2.
I think the conversation around Nebraska has drastically shifted partially to, I think the Minnesota loss last week really did not help the conversation around, because Nebraska coming off that loss and then the way Minnesota looked. But again, I don't think
Iowa not ranked.
Yeah, Iowa looks scary.
They look good.
But Let's just dive into USC's, offense a little bit here. This is by far going to be the most explosive and best offense we have played this year.
Mm-hmm.
And the key to Nebraska in this game is you have to just make sure that they cannot get the run game going against us, because one of the things that USC does well is they score a lot of points, and they're efficient with their drives.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they finish drives. And I think that's been the biggest downside to Nebraska this year is, we can move the ball pretty good bit, but we have to get better in the red zone. And if there's any week where that script has to flip, it's this one, because we have to there's no thing about it. If we get inside that 25-20 yard line, like, we have to get 7. We are not going to even be able to hang around in this game, in my opinion, if we come out taking 3 points. So this has to be a very effective and efficient game plan for the full 100 yards. Like, it's not enough to get down there and take 3 and hang around. Like, this has to be a game where we have to get down there and put our foot on their throat every opportunity that we get. And kind of talked about ball control this week. And, Holgorsen talked about it, but, we kind of saw the formula last week, and he's hinting at it's probably going to be a lot of the same this week, because he was talking about, you got to limit the amount of possessions that they get because they score a lot of points. So it's going to be a big, big commitment to running the football. I don't know if necessarily we're going to see this team take a ton of shots, because I do think that I think it's going to be one of those things where we just want to keep sustained drives and kill that time possession and chew the clock as much as possible.
100% agree. My note is, like, for one of my keys to victory, is playing the keep away game, essentially, because, like you mentioned, their offense is so explosive. I think they average over 500 yards per game. They're one of the most, I think they have actually the first in terms of yards per play. It's like 7.1, 7.2 yards per play.
7.89. I actually have it written down in my notes here.
What is it?
7.89 yards per play.
Oh, it's even better than I thought. So this is a damn good offense. And what's unique about them is they have an incredibly good passing offense, but their rushing offense is just as good. And Lincoln Riley will try to establish the run. He's going, not even will, I think they will personally establish the run. If you think back to when he was at Oklahoma and Scott Frost went in there and had that played keep away, basically. We lost, I think it was like 17-13. I think a game plan very similar to that is actually what we will be looking to do. And then in terms of slowing down the run game, can you do that? I don't know. I mean, I think Northwestern ran the ball very well last week. I think they had 180 yards rushing. It was about 5.7 yards per carry, but it was, other than one run, there was nothing back-breaking. Nebraska did a fairly good job of staying out on a defensive perspective, staying out of second and short, third and shorts for the most part. Can you do that against USC? I don't think Maeva is as much of a threat to run. Now, he can run it, but he's not a guy that's going to be seeking to run. They may do some like read options and stuff like that. He's only scrambled a handful of times on the year. I think our biggest threat is going to be their passing game, though. This is a true test. Like, Nebraska has supposedly this top shelf pass defense. I personally, I don't think Nebraska's really played a team outside of Maryland that can air it out almost at will, which Maryland's kind of slowly falling apart. This is your true test to how good is your pass defense. And on top of that, what's their wide receiver's name? Lemon something.
Mekhi Lemon. Yeah, he is.
He might be the best receiver in college.
He's a top 5 receiver without question. Top 3 probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Jeremiah Smith is the best receiver in college football, but in terms of just how they played this year, Mekhi Lemon is in the debate for the best, not NFL prospect receiver, but best college football receiver. Yeah, on the season.
Yeah. kid is incredible. He's electric. And I think Sire Wright actually said he was, pretty damn good when he was at USC with him as well. So I'm really curious what Nebraska's strategy is, because I don't think we're going to. They have a really good offensive line, in my opinion. So
Yeah,
I
because
don't
not
think
only do
we're
you have to worry about
getting a bunch
Makai,
of pressure.
not only have to worry about Makai Littman, Jacoby Lane is over there as well.
Yeah.
And so like this isn't, Nebraska's had to go against some really good receivers, but this is a true receiving core, and I'm talking through the wide receivers and into the tight ends as well.
Mm-hmm. And one thing too, like last week, Northwestern, they're running, 3x1 sets, and they're spreading you out and then running it. Here's the difference though. They have no passing game. USC does. So Nebraska doesn't have to respect Northwestern's passing game when they're trying to stretch the field out like that.
Mm-hmm.
Where USC, you have to be able to balance coverage while having a respectable amount of guys in the box to stop that run. This to me is this worries me the most, more than anything.
Yes, because we're going to have to rely on our defensive front to be able to step up and stop the run. And one of the things that USC does well is they break tackles, because looking at PFF, I was looking at King Miller in the last game. Well, he's 70 yards rushing, but 48 of those yards were after contact, right?
That's
so
wow.
Yeah. So like they had 90 yards rushing, and overall 69 of those yards came after contact. So Nebraska has in some games had some real tackling issues. Now, I feel like when Nebraska's defense is firing on all cylinders, they make tackles. But I feel like as soon as things start to go bad, then we kind of start throwing our arms at people, and the tackling stops. In the Minnesota game, our tackling was terrible. And coming in that game, Minnesota was the team that was struggling with tackling. So this has to be a game, and I think this will be, because I think they're going to have an aggressive kind of identity all this week through practice defensively, because I think we have to just come out and play with no kind of fear of failure on the defensive side. And we have to be ready to just come downhill fast and hard and be able to make hits and be able to make tackles. And we got to be rallying to the football more than any week. And sometimes our DBs are going to have to get out there on one-on-ones and man coverage, and they're going to have to be able to hang with these guys. And if you start letting them run the football, well, because we look at the Indiana game last year. Indiana, everybody's worried about their passing attack and all that. And I said the key to the game was to stop the run. But you saw just how much, like, Indiana coming out early in that game and running the football, then you're on your heels. The defense is completely on their heels. So to prevent from getting on the heels, they have to come out and set the tone quickly. And I think that starts with the defensive front. I think the defensive front can really, really kind of turn things around with a good performance this week. But that has to start early in the game, because if this offense gets you on your heels, it's going to be a long game. And so Nebraska has to get on the front foot early and be able to push downhill and be able to stop these guys, because that it has been shown that you can get to these running backs. They didn't have a ton of yards, but the yards after contact. So it has been shown that you can get to these running backs early in the play, but don't let them get ahead of steam, because then you're in for a tough day.
Yeah, and that's kind of been like the concern over the last few weeks. Was you see, especially last week with Northwestern, they averaged on the year like 4.8 yards after contact. And you saw that again last week, where, even though Nebraska was tackling relatively well, they're still giving up those junk yards, those yards where, you got 2 or 3 guys trying to bring him down. He still gets 2, 3, 4 yards after contact. But for me, I think this game comes down to the linebackers, because I think they're going to be stressed in ways they have not been stressed, not only in the run game, but getting their run fits, but in the passing game as well. I was looking up some stats on Jade Maeva. I don't know how he's not getting more serious contention for the Heisman. I'm not saying he's going to be a winner by any means, but he's got a 14-2 touchdown to interception ratio. He's got 4 rushing touchdowns on the year. His completion percentage on deep balls is over 60% on the year. His passes in the middle between 0 and 12 yards is over 70% completion rate. That's why what I mean when this is going to be a real test for the linebackers, especially a guy like Javen, who is typically our cover linebacker, where he's more advanced in the coverage than like a Dasan McCullough or Vincent Shavers, who is usually pretty decent in coverage. But I think that's going to be where we're tested the most.
Yeah, especially with these athletic tight ends and stuff like that. And there's not a lot of tells on USC. And one of the things that Mayava does well is he actually does. I mean, well, it could be partially due to Lincoln Riley scheming this up, but when he's blitzed, like he doesn't his PFF grades out pretty well when blitzed, not under pressure, but when blitzed. So they do a good job. So we're not just going to be able to just bring blitzes at him all day. We're going to have to kind of mix it up with simulated pressures. We're going to have to mix it up with our defensive line stunts and things like that, and really just try to get him thinking. Because when, we last year, it was very early on in his career. So like, we had opportunities in that game to really force the turnovers, but we saw what happened when we couldn't, right? He can make some incredible throws, and he's only gotten better. I firmly believe, he's a top 15, top 10 college football quarterback, easy. And the thing about it is he can move around in the pocket a little bit. So that is something that we got to be mindful of, and not just when we do get pressure, and we got to make sure we contain the pocket, because we cannot have plays extended. Their wide receiver core is way too athletic to have plays extended and try to have our guys in one-on-ones running around with these guys. So whenever we do get the opportunity to get pressure on him, we got to make sure that we're doing whatever we can to not let him get out of the pocket, escape the pocket, and get more time in there. And really just make sure that we're disrupting him. And kind of, they talked about that at the last play last week, where we was talking about Javen Wright coming in and really getting his hands up, getting through it on that last play. We're going to have to do a lot of that this week, because Jaden Mayava cannot be comfortable in that pocket at all. And so, but with that, we can't afford, they're so athletic, we can't afford to be bringing a bunch of extra guys on the blitz. Occasionally we can, but we're not going to be able to just consistently bring multiple people on blitzes, because we need all hands on deck back there trying to contain Mekhi Lemon, Jacoby Lane, those guys. So, it's going to be tough in that regard.
To me, I think from a defensive standpoint, you have to commit to stopping the run, because I think just the passing game opens up so much more when you have established the running game, the play action, the deep shots. You can pull those linebackers down. You can get those safeties creeping up. I don't know how you go about it, where like you can't just stack the box with 7 with 8 against USC, because they're going to have 3 wide. They're going to have a tight end that's super athletic, like you mentioned. To me, this is a huge challenge for John Butler. He's going to earn his money this week. But again, like I said earlier, we hear about how good our secondary is. How often do they leave them one-on-one is my question, because do you trust them enough to handle those coverages one-on-one? I think Syer Wright, absolutely. I mean, most games I forget he's on the team because no one tests him. Does USC go after him? They tried to last year, and he made them pay. That was his best game as a
former
Husker
team
last year.
That's his former team too.
Which, remember last year too, that game got a little edgy, more so for him. And USC. Does that carry over this year, or is no love lost, or is it kind of, we're 2 years outside of this now, let's move on type thing?
Yeah, I think for him, there's probably extra motivation in this game, just by nature of it being his former team. Some of the guys he knows over there and stuff like that. So yeah, I do think there's going to be a little extra juice, but I think he wants to, because Syer Wright is some of the best ball skills that we've seen from a corner in a long time at this university. And that's what makes him so good. And they know that. So, we'll see. We'll see if they try to, but it's going to be, that's going to be a huge matchup, him on Mekhi Lemon, whenever they are manned up. So, looking,
they put Andrew Marshall on him.
I don't know if necessarily they're going to have anybody shadow Mekhi. So it might be one of those things where it's just like whoever side you're matched up on. And I think they're going to run a lot of combination stuff, combo zone man. even on the same play, So I think they're going to try to do what they can to maybe, bracket some guys, banjo the coverage, but it's going to require a lot of pressure on our safeties as well to be able to kind of stay home and make sure they don't get beat over the top. But kind of like you're talking about, selling out to stop the run game is very important because Jaden Maiava he operates very well off of RPOs. And so we can't let them get those RPOs going. And as soon as they get the run game going, then our pass rush kind of ceases, because we have to be able to, if they get us on our heels and they keep our pass rush at bay, and then we have to kind of stay out and contain an extra second, and Nayava's able to drop back and have time in the pocket, that's when this game can get a little out of control. So
they have to be very strategic about when they bring the heat.
Yes. And I think, Butler's experience, I think he's going to have a good game plan coming into it. It's just a matter of, are their athletes just that good to where it's not going to matter, and that, I think that's the scariest part of this game. Cause you got a team like a Northwestern where they beat you through solid, fundamental coaching and play. But the reason why in a lot of these games I've wanted to see us come out and really beat a team, beat them, is because a game like this, because their offense is consistent throughout. Our offense is going to have to consistently move the ball, and that's something we have yet to see this season, and really any game outside of your Akrons and your Houston Christians.
Yeah, that is true.
So they're top 5 nationally in top 15 in pass efficiency, rush efficiency, top 5. So it's going to be and their tempo. They're going to want to be can you back up? Come back. I'm hearing myself.
Yep.
Damn echo. And drop your score predictions in the chat. We'll be getting to those. In just a second. So I'm gonna wait for Brian to pop back in here before I continue on to this. 1 second here. Let me dive into some of y'all's comments. Let's see here. What's up, Ron T? Appreciate you hopping in here. Go Big Red Bone Led. Appreciate you hopping in here. Let's get this thing started. GBR, wear black all week. 31-28 Nebraska with a last-second field goal. I would love to see that. I just don't want it to be. That sounds stressful. Hopefully the weather is bad. SC doesn't tube too well in those conditions. Appreciate you, David. Big respect, Justin Bryan. Appreciate you, my man. The fans will help us win this one by being very loud, causing momentum shifts. If we run the table, we make the playoffs. If we do, without a doubt.
Let's win one game at a time.
Yeah. This is one of those games I wouldn't bet with someone else's money. I'm with you, dude. First off, I stopped betting
the spread at like 6.5.
I think so. Which is kind of about I think I predicted to be 5.5, 6. So it's about what we said. But when Navy plays a ranked team, they get destroyed. They haven't played it. They're 7-0. You can't say in other years when Navy plays a ranked team, they lose. And weren't they like 10-2 last year? So what are you talking about?
They were.
You have to respect the team that's undefeated because they're one of the very, very few teams that's just done nothing but handle business. Sorry. I agree, but on Living Cali, this SC team hasn't been in this type of environment. It's also the fact that Nebraska has never beat USC. That's true. Yeah. USC is bringing their band. Let's see. Turnovers, tackling, and blocking will decide the game. That's every game.
Yeah.
Do not give up big plays to this team. They will beat us up. And this is one thing too. Like, we can afford to give up big plays, right? Like, hear me out. What I'm saying is I would rather them come out and have some explosive plays than sustain drives. Because if 100%. Our defense cannot afford to let them control the clock and them to start controlling the drives and all that, because then we're at Lincoln Riley's mercy. So if we give up a big play here and there, so be it. But if that comes at if that comes because we're stopping the run and we're really containing things in the box, then I'll take that all day.
Now, one thing too is, how many times have you seen like a team go on a long scoring drive, 8, 9 plays, maybe 5, 6, 7 minutes, then the other team, maybe gets a 3 and out, they're off the field real quickly, or they have a quick possession, right? A minute or two possession, and then you're putting your defense right back out on the field after they just, 5 or 6 minutes in game time is like 10 minutes in real time. So like they're exhausted. So when you have a quick strike offense, that's the downside of it. And that's why traditionally Lincoln Riley's defenses have never been very good, because his offenses score quickly or they're just off the field very quickly.
And you know what game that makes me think of? And I go back to this game a lot because this game was very interesting in the coaching dynamics and the way it went down. And it's an old game, right? It's all the way back to last year, early on in the season. But Illinois last year. And the reason I point to that is because when Illinois scored in that game, they scored by moving the ball down the field, putting drives together, converting on third down, and setting things up. There was a couple of drives where Nebraska scored quick, 2 or 3 plays, and in that game, because I was watching it on a live stream with an Illinois fan who's a buddy of mine, Sonny Verma, who works for Locked On Illini now. In that game, when we scored on those 3 plays, I was like, I don't like that we scored that quick, because then our defense was back on the field. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So if Nebraska's coming out there and controlling the clock and, really making their defense work, and their offense comes out and, scores in a couple plays and really kind of, doesn't give their defense an opportunity to rest, then sometimes that kind of works in your favor. In Illinois, it did, because then our defense, come right back on the field and didn't get an opportunity to rest. So like, there's a strategy to that too. So I'm not too worried about the explosive plays, because I think USC is an explosive team and we expect to see some of those. I think the complementary football, and I think what really happens in the box is going to tell the story of this game. Very much.
And yeah, and if you can keep it low scoring, I think that's huge. Like if you can keep USC to 21, 24, 27 points, you put them in a dogfight, that's going to be something they're not comfortable with, because quite frankly, they're used to having their way as an offense. And when you start to stress and you strain them, that could cause them to falter, especially if you're running it at them and kind of getting what you want at will. They gave up 300 yards rushing to Notre Dame 2 weeks ago. Their running back had 200 something yards rushing. It was the most ever in Notre Dame Stadium. Their backup running back had almost 100 yards. Like, this is a game where I think Nebraska should just run the damn ball 35 times with Mackay, with Isaiah, and with Emmett.
Here's my one of my keys to victory, and I'll I'm a little early on this, but I think we have to run for 150 plus yards to win this game. Have to.
Oh, minimum.
Yeah. I think we have to at least run for 100, maybe like 160 ones. I think we have to run for 150 yards in this game, because that's the only way to know that we're going to be fully controlling the clock. So we have to run the ball early and often. And with Emmett being as good as he is at breaking tackles, like, and finding those yards, finding those hidden yards, like, even more so, like, if it's not working, just keep going back to him. We cannot for any reason abandon the run game. And I think against Northwestern, we saw that kind of pay off as the game went along. And I think that's why we kind of finally have somewhat of an offensive game plan to build from. Now we're going to have to convert a lot more of those to points, but because we invested in things early that we went too late. And this is going to be a game of 4 quarters and a 4-quarter game plan. And so the things that we invest in early are going to set up things late in the game. And that starts and ends with Emmett Johnson.
That's even if you're averaging 3 yards carry in the first quarter or the first half. Like, that's what makes Iowa so good. That's what makes Northwestern good this year, is they keep running it at you, knowing at some point over the course of a game, over 40 rushing attempts, you're going to wear down. And if that's at the end of the third quarter or the end of the fourth quarter, they're going to keep themselves in that game waiting for you to wear out. That's what you can do against USC's defense, because their defensive line's really good against pass. They're absolutely terrible against the run. They're awful. Their linebackers are big and fast, great. Well, you know what? When you're getting ran at for 35 snaps it's not going to matter how big and athletic you are. You're just physically going to eventually wear down.
And if I can go back to the Illinois game last year, the reason I bring up Illinois too, because they played Illinois and lost to Illinois in a close game, right? In that first half, Illinois was only averaging 1.6 yards per carry, and they ultimately averaged 3 point something. But they continued to run the football, and it started to work. And that's the reason why I'm getting at that is because the way Bielema kind of coaches his team and invests in stuff and doesn't deviate away from that is the way Nebraska has to be throughout 4 quarters of this game. And so, yeah, if we come out, we're averaging 2 yards per carry, it doesn't matter. We are investing in running through the heart of that defense and attacking the middle of their defense and just really stressing them. And I think the fact that Emmett is able to stress defenses as much as he is, it puts everybody in the second and third level on notice too, because it's not easy to bring that man down. And you know what? Illinois wasn't getting a lot of yards in that first half. In the second half, they started really breaking runs, 10 yards, 11 yards. It started to work. So yeah, I think.
Speaking of, USC ranks 96 nationally in rushes of 10 plus yards allowed. They're one of the worst at giving up 10 plus yard rushes, actually.
Mm-hmm.
They're also the 8th worst nationally ranked team in explosive plays allowed, allowing over 10 per game.
Yep.
To me, this just seems like an opportunity for Dana Holgorsen, for Emmett Johnson, to really say, this is our identity. Run the ball.
Another important part of this too, just talk about keeping your defense off the field. We just cannot turn the ball over at all. And I know that's in any game, but against an offense like this, even more so, you can't give those extra opportunities. So we're going to have to really control the football. And with one of the best ways to control the football is go to the guy who doesn't turn the ball over a lot. Emmett does not.
Correct. He's got 2 fumbles in his whole career.
Because we have seen in one of those, he got hit right on the ball in the game.
That was the Boston College game.
Yeah. He got turned back and then got hit right on the ball. And we have seen Raiola make some boneheaded throws. We've seen him make some incredible throws, but we've also seen him make some boneheaded throws. We cannot have any of those throws today. So we need to make sure that whatever he's throwing into, the timing's there, and we're throwing guys open and we're scheming guys open. I think the offense, I think this is going to be Holgorsen's moment to shine, because he's going to have to really, really lean into getting green grass and throwing into green grass and getting those guys covering grass instead of covering our players, and straining them horizontally, first, before we can try to go vertical. But I don't think he's really worried about getting too vertical right now. But I think we need to stretch those guys across the field, side to side, sideline to sideline, and really open everything up in the middle of the field. And that's where this game is going to be won, in that intermediate middle part of the field. If we're getting throws, in that middle part, underneath their linebackers, over their linebackers, stuff like this, I think we win this game. But that is easier said than done.
100%. Yes. USC's safety has 5 interceptions on the year.
They're opportunistic. Safety. They're opportunistic for sure.
But I was reading that. I was reading something in the LA Times or whatever down there, their sports section, that it's kind of like a foregone conclusion at this point that USC is going to have breakdowns almost every single game in their secondary, whether that's a communication breakdown, a coverage breakdown, or something. It just is it's a trend this season for their defense, in particular, their secondary. And so I wonder how Nebraska can identify when those occurrences are happening and how they can exploit it as well, because that could break something open too, where maybe you're looking short, but you see a breakdown in coverage happen and you can hit something deep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And that's part of what we're going to try to do is, make sure that we kind of create those coverage mishaps by just kind of confusing them. And we have yet to see us convert, when we do get an open guy deep down the field. So this would be the game to finally see us convert a fade to the right side of Denke, if you will.
Fade in general.
I don't mean to be specific, but
to
a fade to the right
than
side of Denke. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and what an incredible catch it took for that one. That was a great throw too, though.
That was perfect.
Yes, and so first and second down, that is a key to this game. is we cannot put ourselves at 3rd and long. We cannot put them with an opportunity to put us in obvious passing downs, because that's when we struggle. So committing to just getting the ball moving forward on 1st and 2nd downs is going to be key. And like I said, just really, really making sure that we convert to 7, because we got to stress their leverage, man. We got to really try to force them to be out of position defensively. And the only way you can do that is to get guys, get them on their heels and get guys who, when you have one guy maybe on this side, maybe if you scheme an Isaiah open, on the right side with the screens or whatever, and you get a linebacker that slightly has to shift out, because he has to go out to kind of help protect against that, then that opens up opportunities for quick slants from your slot guy, so on and so forth. So it has to be schemed up like that in the set up the RPOs, because I think this is going to be an RPO heavy game for both teams. And don't be, if I think this might be a good opportunity to try to move the pocket a little bit. I know I'm not saying Dylan needs to be running the ball, but move the pocket, roll him out, get the pocket moving. Cause I think he really does good in those situations, because that buys him a little extra time and it gets him kind of looking, when you get some levels, get some guys kind of running out, I think it helps his vision out a lot. He does have success when we start moving the pocket a little bit. I just think we need to do a little bit more of that.
He actually throws pretty damn good on the run for not being overly mobile too. I think part of it too is it's probably ingrained in him and really any quarterback, where when you're on the run, you really have to hit with your fundamentals. You have to have your feet square, or your hips square to the line of scrimmage. You have to get that elbow up high or whatever, however your throwing motion is. And I always think he throws a very good ball on the run. His touch ding key, actually, I think he had 2 of them to ding key, where he was on the run, back of the end zone, sideline throw. Same with Heinrich Harburg against Michigan State. He does a good job getting the ball where it needs to go when he's on the move. I think too, you're going to see a lot of underneath stuff. I think.
Yep.
Screens, drags. I think you're more athletic than their linebackers, and if you can get Emmett lined up in the slot on a linebacker, Ja'Cory on a linebacker, and Isaiah, who is surprisingly very fast. I did not know he was as fast as he is until he had those long touchdown runs.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He coming in, I said he reminded me of what we wanted Isaiah Nair to be. He's a guy, he's a big body guy who can make incredible catches. He can go up and get 50-50 balls, but his strength is in his ability to break tackles and make guys miss and be able to get up the field. So I think Dane Key and Isaiah, I think Isaiah Nair and Jamal Banks are like the Walmart version of Dane Key and Isaiah Hunter, if you will. I feel like it's the upgraded version. It's the year 3 version of those two.
It's like that meme. It's like who your girl tells you not to worry about.
Yeah.
And it's like
who you're actually worried about.
Dane Key versus Jamal.
Now, one thing that needs to be talked about is one of the things that, USC did have a kick return, 100-yard kick return. I'm sorry, Notre Dame had a 100-yard kick return against USC. So there is an opportunity there in the special teams. If anybody's going to do it, K-Dub, this is the game to do it.
What a surprise he has been.
Unbelievable.
His first kick return last year, I believe, was against Boston College, the opening kickoff. And I was like, who the hell's that dude? Because he shot out of a cannon, and now you're really seeing them exploit their special teams.
And oh my gosh, I don't know what I did with it. Let me see if I can find this real quick, because there was a breakdown of that that was posted a little bit before the show. I was supposed to bookmark it. Okay. You want to see Urban Meyer break down those kick returns?
Oh, that would be phenomenal.
All right. So here we go. Let me share
it out a little bit here.
What's that?
This is going to help us nerd out a little bit. I love this stuff.
Yeah.
The schematics of it.
Let me remove our names here. Y'all know who we are. And let me get this comment off the screen here.
Jerry, here you go. This is the Nebraska
Can you hear that?
kickoff return unit. And as we discussed on the board, you always number the guy you're going to double team. So this is 55, the fifth guy in from the right, fifth guy in from the left. I know that sounds complicated, it's really not. So you're going to get 2 double teams on them. I believe this was a middle return. You can see the 2 double teams, everybody's blocked. But it's also a great return of Kenny Williams. I believe this ball was meant to go inside. But great athletes, ball in their hands, go at it.
Right, like any other play, right?
But the thing that I love, too, is watch the effort by Nebraska. And once again, this is intentional. That means this is taught.
Mike Atlas has done a really good job at all their special teams.
All right, Jerry, here you go again, the Nebraska highlight video. I believe this is called blue 4. What's blue? Blue is left. And what does 4 mean? They're going to double team. You can see it right taking place on the 30-yard line. They're double teaming the 4th defender. I'll tell you, a kick returner has to be courageous. He has to trust the people in front of him. Kenny Williams obviously trusts his guys, and now it's just athleticism take over. Maryland catches him, but it's a complete change of field position. Your percentage of score, by the way, just went up to about 90 once you get down inside the 10-yard line.
So yeah, it's an investment in the entire special teams, and I think like those are the little things that we don't see. We think kick returns is a lot of like, you know, blocking one-on-ones and setting up and, you know, letting the return man, you know, maybe somebody falls down and the return man sees an opening, but that shows that this is coached well. And there's a reason why these returns are setting up the way they are. And not only that, you have to have a returner that trusts his guys, but has the vision to see those openings when they're there. And he sees those things coming from a mile away. And that's why, you know, that's an opportunity there each and every week. It's not luck, you know, as a lot of people kind of think it is, like, oh, we got a kick return for a touchdown. Lucky, you know, a couple guys fell down, a couple guys didn't maintain their lanes and stuff like that. Like you see them actively, specifically targeting a certain guy. This, you know, 4 men in from the left side, you know, the 5th guy in from the right, and setting that up. And so I think that's a big opportunity there to have some really steal some hidden yards in that return game against a special teams that just showed that they can give that up. So huge opportunity there.
I don't think it's going to be just kick returns either. Punt returns too.
Yes. And speaking of just the special teams in general, the punting has been excellent per usual. So that is another aspect of this. Just I think the special teams has been locked in every single game this week, and that could be the difference this week, honestly. Because if Nebraska can go out there and get a spark, you know, from a kick return like that, we've seen that it can completely flip things around for this team and get them a lot of momentum across the board. And just doing it in front of this crowd at a night game at USC, like if that happens, that completely flips this game on its head, in my opinion.
Yeah, this crowd needs to bring the juice from the jump. And you've seen, you know, Colorado last year, you and I were both at that game. You know, when you get that raucous crowd going,
God, bro,
it's one of the toughest places to play. It really is. I mean,
my brain was rattling on the
88,000 strong.
The Tommy Hill pick 6, my brain was rattling.
Dude, that was the moment the game was over.
That was
which was like the first quarter.
Insane, out of body experience when that happened.
I've had a couple good memories there.
That was incredible. All right, so let's see. Why do y'all sound so serious tonight? Because this is a serious game.
Blackout question for you.
Yes.
Is this the biggest game in the rule era?
So define biggest, because do we define biggest? Because some think of biggest as must win or biggest opportunity.
But I would say biggest opportunity.
Yes, because I think we got everything that, you know, we needed to check box. We got the bowl game eligibility already, right? But I think this is a way to cement like Matt Rule era is here. We're in year 3 and this team is for real. I think nationally winning this game, coming out of it 7-2, you finally win against a ranked team and you climb yourself back in the rankings, but then you immediately put yourself in the college football playoff discussion.
Yes.
I don't think it's the biggest in terms of like, yeah, I think there's like, those opportunities where it's like a must-win game. I think it's the biggest in terms of what it means for Matt Rule and this program and where they're at, especially for the national media. I think that's the biggest thing is the conversation around this team completely flips on its head. And everybody's like, oh, and Nebraska gets that respect finally. I think this is the game.
Rebounded after the Minnesota.
Because nobody's thinking Nebraska's back. If Nebraska wins this game, people are finally, I think the outside world finally says Nebraska's back.
Or close to it. Plus, with all the recruiting that's going on right now, the late flips they're going for, you guys, if you haven't, you need to find the list
like
somewhere.
60 players or something like that.
This
insane.
I think this might be the biggest recruiting weekend in the history of Nebraska football.
Very possible.
And I think I said that earlier in the spring, maybe, or maybe it was during winter visits when they had a bunch of dudes in. But like legitimate, like the dudes that are coming, you're talking about 5-star tight end Ahmad Hudson, who's been here multiple times already. You're talking about 4- and 5-star offensive linemen, defensive linemen, the class of 2026, the class of 2027, the class of 2028. Trey Taylor is going to be back in town. You could cement the future by showing up and taking care of business on Saturday night.
Yep.
Because amongst all the chaos that is the college football world, LSU fires Brian Kelly, Penn State fires James Franklin. And that's not it. I mean, I know down here in Texas, there's whispers of Steve Sarkisian being like, or maybe going to the NFL. Hell, even Lincoln Riley. I mean, his tenure has not been great at USC.
No, not at all.
Yeah, and I think if you can come out with a big win, you get that rule extension, finalized if it isn't already. You publicize it. That cements his future at Nebraska with those recruits in town. Guys, could catapult this program. It could take you to new heights.
I think another thing a win does here is it sets us up so well for the rest of the season. Because for all intents and purposes, on paper, this is the toughest game left. Iowa, of course, is a really tough game just because they have gotten a lot better. But this sets you up like to potentially be potentially be a favorite in that game. This sets you up to like people are looking at the rest of the season like Nebraska can win out here, legitimately finish the season with 10 wins. Yep. And that's something nobody outside of the state of Nebraska was even talking about, a 10-win Nebraska team this year, especially coming off of that loss to Minnesota.
No, kidding.
Going to have to be way more aggressive on the defensive side of the ball, high risk, high reward type of game plan. Exactly. They got to go out there, play loose, free with nothing to lose. If it comes an ugly game, I think we win 30-28. It has to be.
Yeah, we want it to be ugly.
It has to be an ugly game. Either way, 35-31, whoever wins, Huskers get it done, I hope. However, to be honest, we should play keep away from USC's offense. Oh, without a doubt. Patient, methodical offensive approach, force USC to push the pace. That will hopefully create mistakes on their end, without a doubt. We got to make them one-dimensional. They're going to move the ball through the air. We cannot let them move the ball on the ground, too. Correct. Do you remember when we ran 80-plus plays a game? Well, partially the reason why is because they changed the clock rules. So there's a reason why there's way less plays. They had to put all those media timeouts in there, as well. So
yeah, now we're running 55 a game.
So yeah, Dylan doesn't throw guys open. He waits for him to get open, thus hanging on to the ball too long. That's true.
I will note there was a change last week.
Yes,
his average time to throw was 2.22 seconds, which for comparison, ironically, the fastest time to throw in the NFL the previous week was Patrick Mahomes versus the Raiders at 2.27. So there was an adjustment, and we need to get the ball out quick.
We don't have to bring up Mahomes in the show ever again. Right?
I just thought it was ironic.
I'm just like, what about pump fakes while set up to pass? The pump fakes? I mean,
no one bites on those, really.
Yeah, well, I don't think we need to be holding the ball long enough to because that's if you're doing double moves. If we're doing double moves and throwing
Like the
deep,
sluggo.
that means we better already be moving the ball in other ways. Rollouts for Dylan reduces his options, gives him the ability to pick the open guy easier. Exactly. And it just gives him a second to kind of, move with time and see his guys. Yeah, because a lot of times you're going to have the guys running with you, and so you can more accurately kind of determine the levels and see. You're less likely to have a linebacker lurking behind a defensive lineman when you get out to that sideline. So yeah, I think moving the pocket is going to be a big part of this game, hopefully. And I just think we really need to confuse them a lot defensively with motions, because I think this offense is very successful when we're moving guys pre-snap
And actually throwing it to the guy that's doing the motion.
Yeah, so getting them with a full head of steam and then kind of getting the ball out to them quickly. Yes, 100%. So yeah, let's go ahead and get to the predictions.
All righty. 32-26 USC.
Okay. 32-26?
Yeah, I think it's first to 30, and I think they beat us. All that said,
I got 34-30 USC, unfortunately. I hate to do it, but I got to be just realistic from what we've seen this year. And we both, of course, want to be wrong. You can roast us all you want. But 34-30 USC, I just think they have shown a little bit more this year for me to think that they're just a little bit better of a team. Mind you, they are how far into Lincoln Riley's tenure, and they are in a situation where like this game is a must win. That's how, that's what not a must, nearly a must win. Like I feel like they have to win this game. And so they're just in that part in their time in Lincoln Riley's tenure to where I think this is an opportunity, like I said, for Nebraska to play loose, free, and fun. But I just think that there are some things that have been rearing their ugly head in the consistency department and also just some boneheaded mistakes that if they happen in this game, I just don't think we're going to be able to overcome those against like some of the teams that we've played before. I think we've been able to overcome those against some teams, but I don't think USC is one of those. I think we have to go out there and play a near perfect game. And just we haven't played well enough in the middle part of the game for me to be able to predict the game win here.
I'll add my one thing that may be a factor is LSU flirting with Lincoln Riley again. And is he distracted?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we saw what was happening, and was that part of what happened to the Minnesota week with Matt Rule? All that conversation around that. Was that a little bit of a distraction? Because I also kind of think that to myself a little bit too. There's a little bit of distractions in the conversation throughout the week of the Minnesota game. Minnesota was locked and loaded in Nebraska. So yeah, very well. Hopefully that's the case, but and hopefully we're both wrong. So, because I think this is the first loss I've predicted. Shout out to the other Dave 199, man. I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for I was like, what just popped into our chat? I appreciate the $1.99, man. Thank you so much. Will weather be a factor? What is the weather looking like?
It's supposed to be about 40 degrees in Lincoln, Nebraska.
I don't think so. I just like, I think weather in a lot of cases is very overstated because USC has guys that are going to probably be in the NFL. And we see guys come from warm weather teams and go to the NFL and be successful immediately all the time. I just think weather is a little bit of an overstated factor in a lot of cases.
The only, I guess, factor from that would be what does the rain chances look like? And I need to figure that out.
If it's raining,
worst weather
that's a different story. That's a different story.
Okay, Saturday, Lincoln, Nebraska, high of 47, a low of 33. It's going to be about 40 degrees at kickoff. That actually, maybe not. I don't know.
So
it's cold.
I hope, but I think they're a team that's talented enough to wear a little bit of cold weather isn't going to really hurt them too much. If it was snowing, it might be a different story, but then it might look like Ohio State versus Tennessee last year. But 31-24 USC, unfortunately, 27-24 men. Does that mean us?
There's a lot of men on the field, so I don't know.
I'm going to assume he's predicting us. 31-28 Nebraska, including a pick six for Marshall. That would be amazing. A pick
What if
six.
Sayer got another pick six?
Hey, bro, we're winning. If Sierra gets a pick six, we're winning that game. Sorry.
Fuck yeah.
USC, not men. Oh, okay. Well, I preferred when you were predicting men. No. Ray just asked how many rounds are in football. Yes, all of them.
All of them.
29-25 Nebraska. Go Big Red. I'm stealing somebody else's pick. 31-27 Nebraska. So a little split on the predictions in the chat, which I expected. So, but like I said, hopefully we're wrong. And yeah, hopefully we can come out there and make this, because this is going to be a stressful game. If this close game, yeah, would be so stressful, dude. Ray said 42-21 at Nebraska.
Look, Ray, if you're right, I will buy you whatever you want.
Ooh.
For dessert.
Oh, okay. All right. I was about to say.
She's a big dessert girl. That's
all right.
my middle daughter.
Me too. So you can buy me whatever I want for dessert too. All right, guys. Well, that'll do it for us here. Thank you again, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate y'all stopping by. Ellie said 45-10 Nebraska. I like these predictions. I'm going to be completely honest.
Look, I've never seen so much Kool-Aid being drank by my kids than right now.
That's fine.
Unbelievable.
Keep pumping that Kool-Aid into them, whatever you're doing, because if they are right, bro, they're taking my listen. If one of those score predictions is right, they're hosting the show next week.
Bet. I'll bring them on.
All right.
They'll definitely be awake. It'll be over by what, 10 o'clock on Saturday? Yeah, they'll be fine.
Cool. Or no, they can host Tuesday's show.
Even better.
Yeah. So if either of those are right, they can take my spot on the channel if they want. But so
write it down.
Yep. Thanks everybody for tuning in again. We appreciate y'all. We are going to have our call-in show on Friday night, so y'all be sure to tune in for that call-in so you can give us your thoughts on the game. Get prepped up for Saturday, man. But it's a fun one to look forward to. So, and yeah, a little bit of conversation about the Matt Rule extension. So we might bring that up there. We'll see where stuff goes in that conversation. So yeah, I'm just going to leave that
on Saturday.
I'm going to leave that at that. So yeah, so we'll talk about that a little bit more in depth Friday. I'll be at the game. Feels like temperature 32 with wind at kickoff. I'm bringing my long johns. O-line seemed much better last week, leaning on the run game and not having these long pass plays. Yes. It was definitely part of what we did in the scheme. Some of the similar things that we did in the second half versus Maryland, I think we can bring a lot of those to the table this week. Combine a couple of things from those game plans, the passing stuff versus Maryland versus some of the running stuff against Northwestern. And I do think we have some stuff to build off of from last week's film that gives me a little bit of confidence, but hopefully enough to prove. I just hope they prove me wrong. That's all I'm saying. I feel dirty. I feel dirty predicting a loss, but you got to do what you got to do sometimes. So, all right, guys. Well, again, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Call-in show will be at 7 p.m. Central on Friday. So with that being said, we will see you on the next video. Peace.